Welcome once more to another episode with Datacraft Analytics. So today we'll be looking at Introductions to EViews, a complete beginner guide. So we'll be looking at what it is, why we need it, and then how we get started with it quickly. Don't forget to subscribe. So firstly, what is EViews? So EViews actually stands for Econometrics View, and then it is one of the most popular statistical tools for time series forecasting, econometrics, and then major data analysis. And then we see that whether we are working on economic research or academic works or real-time data modeling, we see that EViews makes everything looks more demystified, and it has statistical tools, complex statistical tools that will make everything or make a person handle everything seamlessly because of its friendly user interface. So as we've mentioned, it is designed for time series, it is used for forecasting, for econometrics, and then one thing with EViews is that it combines spreadsheets. So similarly to the interface which Excel gives us, EViews also has that capability, and it also have statistical tools and then graphic options. So we can use EViews for data visualizations and also other graphic utilities. So as we've mentioned, is widely used in economics, finance, social sciences, and other research. So we'll be moving on to why we use EViews. So basically we use EViews because it simplifies complex econometric stacks. It is friendly to both the beginner and also professionals. And the one thing with EViews is that it handles large data sets very easily, very seamlessly. EViews has the capability to measure and analyze over 20 million observations. So it can do this very easily without any complex difficulties or anything. So we see that it supports a wide range of statistical techniques. And the last but not the least, we see that it reduces the need for extensive coding. So for those who are familiar with Stata and R, we know that we need basic coding knowledge to be able to navigate within this statistical tool. But for EViews does not need any extensive knowledge of coding, even though it gives the option for a person to use codes and everything. So you can either use the visual clicked based interface, or you can decide to go on with the coding. So that's one advantage of EViews and why we use it. So I would advise that basically if you're working or if you're tired of getting stuck within Excel or battling with R and Stata codes, EViews actually gives you a much more smooth, organized workspace that's designed for economic analysis and everything, and it's much more easier because at the course of the video we'll be looking at how we can actually integrate this. So next on we'll be moving to the EViews interface, whereby I will tell you on the EViews. But first, let's talk about what the work file is, the command window, the menu bar, the graphing tools, and also the object types. So EViews has what we call the work file, which basically manages your data sets and everything. So the work file captures your data set, your time series data, panel data, whatsoever type of data, it captures it and everything. So that's one option. And then for the command window, that's where we have several list of commands and everything. It shows us what we are doing and everything. That's where you can use the coding knowledge. Now we can code on the command window, and then we can actually run these codes real time. And another key thing on the EViews is it has the menu bar. So from the menu bar we can explore data, we can see objects, view, and everything. Likewise goes for the graphing tools. So to give a more clearer point of this, would be moving on to the EViews package, how EViews looks like. I'm using EViews 13 for this tutorial video, and this is how basically it looks like. So we can see here it's giving us the option to create a new work file, to open an existing work file or even open a foreign file. So we have Excel, it accepts Excel, it accepts data sheets, it accepts CVC data, and so on and so forth. So these are the previous data that I've worked with. So it gives me a preview of like my recent data and everything. But for the sake of this video, we'll be creating a new EViews work file. So basically, when we create a new EViews work file, what we'll be doing now is would name the file. So in naming the work file now, since would be teaching you how to import data, we can name it import. So for this, we'd name it import. And then when you're creating a work file, it gives you the option whereby you can specify the years which you're studying, and this for annual data. So if I'm working with annual data, I can specify the year. If I'm working with quarterly data, I can specify the year. So I would specify for annual data. So for instance, let's say we're working with 1990 down to 2022. So this is time series data actually, which we'll be exploring and everything. So I've already named it as imports, or we can say importing data. So after we're done with this, we can go ahead, okay. And then just as we've seen, this is the work file. So the work file shows us our data sets and everything. Here is the command window whereby we can type in and actually run commands and do everything. Here is actually our display window whereby it displays our commands and whatsoever work we're doing. For instance, if I open this, it opens on this window now, and here is also the command explorer. You don't need this for now. So moving on to importing data, the first aspect or the first thing we do in importing data, there are several ways which can import data into EViews. So the first method I'll be teaching you, which is the most commonly used, is first we go to our file. From our file we import data, and then it gives us the option to import from file. So when we're importing from file, it takes us to our computer whereby we can search for where our data is being kept, and then for instance I'll be using this data set. So when I open this data, by default what EViews does is it previews my data. So it has shown me the year, the variables which is RGDP, inflation rate and exchange rate. So it has given me a preview of all this, and this is because I have already cleaned and analyzed my data on Excel. So I have a spreadsheet of my data well presented in Excel, and that's why it is able to pick the first rows as variable names. So from this, my data looks good, I can say finish. So for this, I would say I don't want to create any link for the import, so pick no and everything. And here I have my variables. If I press Ctrl A, here are my variables whereby I have RGDP, I have inflation rate, I have exchange rate. I can open my variables to view them further as a group, and then I can explore my data. As we can see, the year we specified earlier, 1990 down to 2022. So this is the first option for importing data. The second one I'll be teaching you is actually the copy and paste, which I most prefer. So for this, we have to delete this present data on our work file. So we highlight everything, we come here, we delete, and we say yes all. So I have a spreadsheet whereby I've already arranged my data. I have my data already arranged whereby I have my year. This is a time series data, by the way, and then I have my RGDP, my inflation, and then my exchange rate, and these are the data over time, which are the annual data. So for the method which I'm going to be using, that's the copy and paste. For instance, I want to use these variables, I can just Ctrl A, which selects everything. But if per se I want to just study maybe a simple regression whereby I'm using one dependent and one independent variable, I can go ahead, pick the year, pick the GDP, and then pick my inflation rate, just for a simple regression. But for the fact that I am running a multiple regression here, or maybe we're importing multiple data, we can copy and then move back to our EViews, and then we can paste it here. Right click and then paste, and then by default we have seen that it has previewed our data. It has previewed our data in RGDP, inflation rate, and exchange rate. We can go to next, and then this is the start here and everything, and then we can go to next, and then from here we can finish, and then we say no. So this is another method whereby you can import data into EViews, clean and very fast, very reliable and very smooth. So nextly we'll be moving down to simple descriptive statistics. And in simple descriptive statistics, basically what we'll be looking at is, before we go into deep analysis, is actually very good to check the basic statistics of our variables and then to understand how the behavior of our data is over time. So for this, we'll be doing a simple, or we'll be doing a summary statistics, which is the descriptive statistics. So for instance, we have our data here. Since we'll be using all observations, we can Control A and then open this, right click, and when we right click, it gives us the option to open. From this, we can open this as a group. So when we open it as a group, just as we did earlier, it gives us a quick summary of how our data looks like. But then to run a descriptive statistics here on EViews, what we do is we come here to view, we come to descriptive statistics, and then we use it as a common sample, because we're running a descriptive statistics for everything combined per se, or perhaps we're running for individual variables, we can do that. But then since we're running for everything at once, we say we want to use as a common sample, and when we do this, it has given us our results. Here's our results, whereby we can see the mean value, we can see the median, we can see the maximum numbers, the minimum numbers, the standard deviation, and all the other components which are comprised in the descriptive statistics. We can see our Jacobera, which majorly tells us how our data is distributed, whether it's normally distributed over time, and so on. And these are the number of observations, which is 33 years, because we're studying from 1990 down to 2022. So this is a basic introduction whereby we've given you what EViews is, how it works, and then how to import data, and then finally how to run a descriptive statistics to give us an idea of how our data is. So if you found this very helpful, please hit the button, subscribe for more tutorials on this. And then in the next video, we'll be talking on how to run simple regressions as the normal OLS regressions. And see you next.